The phone rang at 9:43 p.m. Not a text. Not a missed call. A full-on "don't ignore this" ring. I almost let it go to voicemail. Because when your dad never calls at night, your body knows before your brain does something's wrong. I answered. And before I could even say hello, his voice cracked through the speaker like glass under pressure. "Don't hang up," he whispered. "Please." That's when my stomach dropped. My dad never whispers. He's a retired union guy. Loud laugh. Firm handshake. The kind of man who fixes things instead of talking about them. Hearing him sound small, that alone felt like an emergency. Behind his voice, I heard chaos. My mom pacing, words firing fast, sharp, overlapping like a kettle screaming because nobody bothered to turn the heat down. "Your sister says the bank can take the house," Dad said, breath shaky. "She says it's your fault." I don't even know what I signed. Outside my apartment window, someone lit off the last leftover firework from the holiday weekend. The crack echoed down the street like a warning shot. Then Dad said the sentence that turned my blood to ice. "They're coming tomorrow to change the locks." I stood there frozen, phone pressed to my ear, my brain scrambling to catch up with the reality he just dropped into my lap. "Dad," I said, forcing my voice calm, even though my hands were already shaking, "put me on speaker. And don't sign anything else. Not one page." He swallowed hard. I heard paper rustling, panic breathing. "She's holding the papers," he whispered. "She won't let me read them. Your mom keeps saying you abandoned us." That word, abandoned, hit like a slap, and just like that, my mind snapped backward. Because this didn't start with a locksmith. It started 7 days earlier, the Monday before Thanksgiving. 7:12 a.m. I was standing in my kitchen, half awake, coffee halfway poured, when my phone buzzed. From my mom. "Don't come this year. We're keeping it small." I stared at the screen like it belonged to someone else. Thanksgiving in our family had never been small. It was a production. 2 folding tables shoved together, football murmuring in the background. My mom counting heads like she was running a fundraiser. My dad carving the turkey like it was his civic duty. Noise. Chaos. Too much food. Too many opinions. Small wasn't our brand. I typed back one word. Small. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Reappeared. Then the verdict landed. "This year is about your sister. Don't ruin it." No explanation. No apology. Just a command. Before I could even process that, my phone buzzed again. This time from my sister. "Don't come. The guest list is final, clean, polite, absolute." That's my sister in a nutshell. Karen. My older sister. The golden child. The fragile one everyone rearranged their lives around. Growing up, Karen had big feelings. I was the strong one. When Karen needed rescuing, my parents moved mountains. When I needed help, I got a tight smile and, "You'll figure it out." When Karen totaled her car, it was an accident. When I earned a scholarship out of state, my mom called it running away. When Karen's marriage collapsed, my parents refinanced the house so she could start fresh. When I asked for help with my first apartment deposit, Dad said, "You're the responsible one." So when they told me not to come for Thanksgiving, I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't send a long paragraph explaining my feelings like they'd suddenly start caring now. I just stood there, staring at my phone, until the hurt hardened into something clear and sharp. If I showed up, I'd be the problem. If I stayed away, they'd get their perfect table and their perfect story. So I made a decision. I opened my laptop and pulled up an email I'd ignored for years. Out of state transfer final offer. My company had been pushing me to take over a struggling branch. I'd always said no. Because my parents were getting older. Because Karen was always going through something. Because I kept believing loyalty would eventually be returned. That morning, with my coffee going cold on the counter, I clicked reply. I accept. Relief hit first, clean, immediate. Then grief followed, heavy and slow. Not because I was leaving my hometown, but because I finally admitted the truth. I'd been staying for people who didn't want me there. By noon, I'd called my supervisor. By afternoon, HR sent the relocation packet. That night, I packed 2 suitcases, my winter coat, and a framed family photo I'd kept more out of habit than love. Matching sweaters, fake smiles, everyone pretending nothing was wrong. My phone stayed quiet. "No? Are you okay?" From Mom. No, call me? From Dad? Nothing from Karen, because she didn't need to pretend. Before sunrise the next morning, I was on the road. Windshield wipers smeared frost into thin white lines as mile after mile disappeared behind me. I told myself I was doing the healthy thing. But somewhere past the state line, the truth landed in my chest like a stone. They didn't uninvite me to keep the peace. They uninvited me because they needed me gone. And 1 week later, my dad was calling in a panic, saying someone was coming to change the locks on his house. I pulled myself back into the moment. Dade. I said into the phone, steady now. Banks don't show up with locksmiths the next day. If someone's coming tomorrow, it's because Karen called them. Not the bank. His breathing sped up. She says the mortgage is behind. There's a notice. Your mom's been crying all week. Karen keeps saying if you hadn't left, you would have helped. There it was. My name dragged back into the mess like a leash. Start at the beginning, I said.
What did you sign?
A long pause. Paper shuffling. Then Dad said quietly, Saturday before Thanksgiving, Karen came over with a folder. And a man in a blazer. My stomach tightened. An attorney? I asked. I don't know, he said. He had a briefcase. Smiled a lot. Karen said it was routine. Routine. That's the word people use when they don't want questions. And suddenly, everything made sense. Routine. I repeated, keeping my voice calm even though my chest was starting to feel tight. Dad, power moves are never routine, especially when they come with a stranger and a folder. On the other end of the line, he sighed. Long. Tired. The kind of sigh that carries years of swallowing things just to keep dinner polite. She said it was a power of attorney. He admitted, just in case something happened. So she could help with bills. My grip tightened around the phone. Power of attorney isn't a holiday chore. It's control. Did you read it? I asked. Another pause. Then the truth slipped out, quiet and ashamed. She kept flipping pages, he said. Pointed where to sign. Your mom said, just do it, Frank. We don't need drama. Of course she did. That had always been the family rule, keep Karen calm. Keep the peace, even if it costs the rest of us everything. Do you have copies? I asked. No. His voice cracked. Karen took the folder. Said she'd scan everything. Of course she did. Okay, I said, forcing myself into problem-solving mode because panic wouldn't help him. We slow this down, right now. Is there anyone there who isn't Mom or Karen? He hesitated. Your mom doesn't want anyone else involved. That told me everything. What about Aunt Diane? I asked. Silence. Dad didn't answer. But he didn't say no either. I'm calling her, I said. Stay on the line. Aunt Diane picked up on the second ring. Honey, she said, already worried. I was wondering when you'd call. My throat tightened. You were over there.
Yes,
she said. And now I know exactly why they didn't want you at Thanksgiving. The words hit harder than I expected. What do you mean? I asked. Diane didn't sugarcoat anything. She never had. Your mother told everyone you couldn't be bothered to come, she said. Said you were too busy chasing promotions. I stared at the bare wall of my new rental. My suitcase still half unpacked by the door, so the story had already been written. I wasn't excluded. I was erased. But that wasn't the real reason. Diane continued. Karen didn't want questions. My stomach twisted. Questions about what? I stopped by the day before Thanksgiving to drop off pie tins. Diane said. Karen's car was there, so was a stranger's. Guy with a tablet and a measuring wheel. My pulse spiked. Measuring? I asked. Like a real estate type, she said. When I asked what was going on, your mom smiled too big and said, just some updates. Updates. Another lie dressed in polite language. And then I saw it. Diane added, lowering her voice. A thick folder on the counter. Tabs everywhere. My chest felt cold. What letters? I whispered. State, POA, deed? I closed my eyes. Are you sure? I asked. I'm old, not blind, she snapped, then softened. Frank looked confused. Your mom looked scared. Karen looked satisfied. That word stuck with me. Satisfied. One more thing. Diane said. When I left, there was an envelope on the hall table. Windowed. My heart started pounding. What did it say? I didn't touch it, she said. But I could read the line through the plastic. She paused. Notice of default. The room felt like it tilted. A notice of default. Power of attorney. A deed. And somehow I was the one who had abandoned them. Diane, I said carefully. I need you to do something for me. Anything. She replied without hesitation. Go back over there tonight. I said. No confrontation. Take pictures of whatever you can. Envelopes, letterheads, dates, anything. Then call me. She didn't even pause. I'm grabbing my keys. The line went dead. Almost immediately, my phone buzzed again. A text from Karen. Stay out of this. You left. I stared at it. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the spare daughter. I felt like the one standing between my parents and a trap. 20 minutes later, Diane called back, whispering. I'm parked around the corner, she said. I got pictures. My heart slammed. Tell me everything. There's a yellow envelope from the bank, she said. Notice of default. Dated 3 weeks ago. Certified mail. 3 weeks. They'd known for 3 weeks. And Diane lowered her voice even more. There's a sticky note on the fridge. Karen's handwriting. My fingers went numb. What does it Smith? Tuesday, 9:00 a.m.? I exhaled sharply. A locksmith, not the bank. Karen. My other line lit up. Dad. I clicked over. She's back, he said, breath ragged. Karen's back. She's yelling. Says she's going to handle the house situation because you won't. Put me on speaker. I said. The sound shifted. Room echoing, footsteps, tension thick enough to taste. Karen's voice came through first, smooth, controlled. Oh, so you finally answered. Why is there a locksmith scheduled for tomorrow? I asked. Silence. Then, that's none of your business, she said. You moved. You're out. I'm out of Thanksgiving, I said. Not out of Dad's life. What did you make him sign? It was routine, she replied. Someone has to be responsible. Responsible doesn't mean secret. I shot back. Why change passwords? Why keep copies from him? Because he gets confused. Karen snapped. Because Mom panics. Because you're not here? There it was again. I took a breath. Dad, I said gently, tomorrow you go to the bank. In person. With Aunt Diane, not Karen. Karen laughed softly. You think you can undo this? Yes, I said. Because if you pressured him or misused anything, that's not family stuff. That's legal. The room went quiet. Dad whispered, Am I in trouble? My voice softened. No. But you don't let anyone change the locks. Karen's voice turned icy. If you interfere, I'll tell everyone you're trying to steal from them. Say whatever you want, I said, but you're not locking them out of their own home. I glanced at the photo Diane had sent. Foreclosure action may commence in 10 days. 10 days. Not time. A trap. I looked at my calendar. New job orientation circled in red. Then I looked at my suitcase. Dad, I said quietly. We're getting a lawyer. I didn't sleep that night. And by morning, everything Karen thought she controlled started slipping through her fingers. I didn't sleep, not even for a minute. I sat on my couch with my laptop open, a legal pad balanced on my knees, and a pen tapping against paper like it was trying to wake me up. Dates, names, amounts. Every time Karen had helped. Every moment my mom had said, let it go. Every time my dad had sounded smaller than the man who raised me. At 7:41 a.m., my phone rang. Aunt Diane. I picked your dad up, she whispered. Your mother tried to block the door. My stomach twisted. Is he okay? I asked. He's embarrassed, she said. But he got in the car. That's a start. I stayed on speaker as they pulled into the bank parking lot. I could hear the automatic doors whoosh open. The low hum of a lobby. Someone coughing. A printer chirping. Normal life. Meanwhile, my family's foundation was cracking wide open. A banker's voice came on the line. Calm, professional, neutral. The kind of tone that makes chaos feel orderly, even when it isn't. Mr. Harris, I'm going to ask a few security questions. Dad answered them slowly. Shaky, but present. Then the banker said the sentence that snapped everything into focus. There is an active home equity line of credit attached to your property. She said, and the last 2 payments were missed. My dad made a sound like air escaping a tire. I didn't open that, he said. I swear. Deanne's voice cut in, solid as steel. He didn't. The banker continued carefully. We also have a power of attorney on file authorizing your daughter to conduct certain financial transactions. My blood went cold. Can you print the POI? I asked. If Mr. Harris requests it, she replied. Print it, Dad croaked. I heard the printer whir. Paper sliding. Diane murmuring as she read. It's notarized, she said quietly. Notarized. Official. The kind of paper that makes decent people assume everything is fine. Dad whispered, almost childlike. Karen brought the notary to the house. Said it was just to witness signatures. I closed my eyes. Karen hadn't just taken control. She made it look clean. Okay, I said, forcing my voice steady. Here's what we do next. We don't fight her with emotion. We fight her with steps. Diane didn't hesitate. Already called Reynolds and Phelps. They can see us at noon. By noon my dad was sitting in an attorney's office that smelled like coffee and paper. Mr. Reynolds spoke like he'd seen this exact story 100 times, and somehow, that was comforting. Frank, he said gently, if you're competent, you can revoke a power of attorney. You also have the right to know exactly what was opened, what was withdrawn, and where the money went. Dad's shoulders slumped. I didn't mean to cause trouble. You didn't, Reynolds said. But someone may have used your trust. That sentence hit harder than yelling ever could. Reynolds laid everything out like a checklist. Because dignity comes back fast when someone explains reality. Revoke the POA in writing, properly witnessed, and notarized. Deliver the revocation to the bank immediately. Freeze the line of credit. Request a full accounting of every transaction. Address misuse formally. Because family that cancel consequences. Dad signed the revocation with a trembling hand. I hated that my sister had turned his signature into a weapon. Reynolds called Karen. She answered on the first ring, voice bright. Hi. Is this about Dad? I've been trying to keep everything under control. Karen. Reynolds said calmly. Your father has revoked your power of attorney effective immediately. Silence. The bank will be notified today, he continued. We're also requesting a full accounting of withdrawals and payments made through the home equity line. You can't do that. Karen snapped. We already did, Reynolds replied. My mom's voice rose faintly in the background. Karen, please. Karen ignored her. This is ridiculous, she said. She left. I stayed. I handled everything. I finally spoke. You told me not to come. You said the guest list was final. You didn't want me here asking questions. Karen's breath sharpened. Because you make everything heavy. Yes, I said, and now we know why. Reynolds cut in smoothly. You have two options, cooperate with repayment or we proceed formally. Karen laughed. Brittle. Fine, I'll pay it back. On a written schedule, Reynolds said. Automatic payments. No access to new credit. Then Karen said something that didn't sound like anger. You think Mom will choose you now? The call ended. Dad's breathing was slower, steadier. Then he whispered, there's something else. My pulse jumped. What did you sign, Dad? He swallowed. A deed. The room went still. Karen said it was a quitclaim. He added. Said it would avoid probate. Reynolds leaned forward. Was it recorded? He made a call. Then looked up. It hasn't been recorded. That means it's not final. But it also meant she'd planned to make it final. The locksmith wasn't about maintenance. It was about urgency, pressure, control. Dad's voice broke. I raised her. How did I miss this? I didn't yell. Older hearts don't need noise. They need clarity. You're seeing it now? I said. That matters. That evening, Karen showed up dressed like she was heading to a holiday party. This is getting dramatic, she said lightly. Dad stood. His hands shook, but his voice didn't. You changed passwords, he said. You opened credit. You scheduled a locksmith. That isn't help. That's control. Karen looked stunned. Then she snapped. I was tired of failing. Mom finally spoke. Why didn't you just ask for money? Karen's lips trembled once. Reynolds slid the agreement forward. She signed. Weeks later, alerts were set. Diane stayed involved. Karen entered therapy. The next holiday was smaller, quieter, real. The house felt different the moment Karen signed. Not peaceful, not healed, just exposed. Like when a storm rips the roof off and suddenly everyone can see what was rotting underneath. Dad sat at the kitchen table long after Karen left, staring at the wood grain like it held answers. His coffee went cold. My mom kept refilling it anyway, like muscle memory could fix what denial couldn't. No one spoke, because once the truth is out, silence gets loud. I didn't think she'd do this. Mom finally said, barely audible. Dad didn't look up. I did. That stopped her. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, heart pounding. Not with anger anymore, but something heavier. Grief. Not for what Karen did, for how long it took us to stop pretending she wouldn't. She's always needed help. Mom whispered. Dad finally raised his eyes. They were red, but clear. She didn't need help, he said. She needed limits. And we never gave her any. That sentence landed like a dropped plate. Sharp. Final. And somehow relieving. Karen didn't call for 2 days. No rage texts, no dramatic voicemails, no passive-aggressive Facebook posts, just silence. The kind that usually means someone's rewriting the story in their head. On the 3rd day she showed up again. No heels this time. No polished smile. No performance. She looked tired. Real tired. I'm not here to fight, she said from the doorway. Dad didn't invite her in. That was new. She stepped inside anyway. Eyes darting around like the house might reject her. I didn't mean for it to get that far, she said. I was just trying to keep things together. I let out a slow breath. By changing the locks, she flinched. By taking control, she shot back, because nobody else was. Dad's voice was calm. You never asked. She laughed bitterly. Because you'd say no. Mom looked down. That silence, that right there, was the answer Karen already knew. Karen's shoulders sagged. I'm so tired of being the failure. That was the crack, the moment the golden child stopped shining. I was drowning, she said. And every time I messed up, you all fixed it. Quietly. No consequences, just resets. She looked at me then. And you, she said, voice sharp again, you always landed on your feet. Scholarships, jobs, independence. You didn't need us. I met her gaze. I needed you to stop taking from them. That shut her up. Because for the first time, the comparison didn't work. This wasn't about who struggled more. This was about who crossed a line. Dad sat down slowly. Karen, he said. When you scheduled that locksmith, what were you planning? She swallowed. I thought if I controlled the house, I could refinance. Buy time, fix it before you knew. Be locking us out. Mom whispered. Karen's voice broke. I thought you'd forgive me after. That's the thing about entitlement, it assumes forgiveness is automatic. I spoke quietly. That's not forgiveness. That's fear. Karen wiped her face. I didn't think you'd come back. I didn't. I said honestly. I just refused to disappear. That one hurt her more than yelling ever could. The repayment started the next week. Automatic, on schedule, no excuses. Karen lost access to everything. Dad insisted on it. I love you. He told her, but love doesn't mean blind trust anymore. She nodded. Not happily, but genuinely. Mom cried that night. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but the kind that sneak up on you when you finally admit how much you enabled. I made you the easy child, she told me later. Hands wrapped around a mug she never drank from. I leaned on your strength so I wouldn't have to confront hers. I didn't forgive her in that moment. I told her the truth instead. That cost me years of swallowing hurt to keep peace that wasn't mine. And for once, she listened. No excuses. No defending Karen, just listening. Weeks passed. Bank alerts pinged regularly. Diane stayed involved. Dad started asking questions, real ones. The kind he'd avoided his whole life. Karen started therapy, not as a performance, not as damage control, as work. The next holiday came. Smaller, quieter, honest, no fake smiles, no pretending nothing happened. Karen apologized, not perfectly, not poetically, but sincerely. Dad apologized too, and this time, it sounded like accountability. Not guilt. I stayed in my new city, kept my transfer, visited with boundaries. Because reconciliation isn't pretending it didn't happen. It's choosing truth, and then choosing each other anyway. And here's what I learned. If someone tells you, Don't ruin the holiday. Check what they're hiding. If someone needs you gone to keep the peace, you're not the problem, you're the threat. And if you're the quiet one, the responsible one, the strong one, stop letting that be used against you. Because strength doesn't mean silence. It means knowing when to speak, even if your voice shakes. Nobody tells you what happens after the truth comes out. They act like exposure is the finish line. Like once the bad guy is unmasked and the papers are signed, everyone exhales and life snaps back into place. That's a lie. What comes after is quieter, messier, and way more personal. The crisis ended fast. The consequences did not. The first thing that changed was my phone. It stopped ringing. No emergency calls. No frantic updates. No midnight spirals from my mom. At first, that felt like peace. Then it felt like distance. Because when your role in a family has always been the fixer from the outside, silence doesn't mean resolution. It means recalibration. They didn't need me in panic mode anymore. They needed me to figure out who I was without the chaos, and that scared me more than I expected. Karen kept her repayment schedule. On paper, everything looked responsible. Emotionally, she avoided me. Not aggressively, not cruelly. Just carefully, like someone who knows they crossed a line and doesn't trust themselves not to cross another. At family dinners, she spoke to me like I was a colleague she respected but didn't know how to joke with anymore. Polite, measured, distant. It hurt, but it was honest. And honesty, I learned, is better than fake closeness built on denial. My dad changed the most, not overnight, but in small, almost invisible ways. He started asking before signing things. He insisted on reading fine print. He told my mom no without apologizing. Once, when a contractor tried to rush him, Dad laughed and said, "I've learned my lesson. You can wait." I had to mute my phone because I started crying in public. Not because I was sad, because I finally saw him reclaiming himself. My mom struggled. She missed the old version of peace. The quiet kind that came from ignoring problems. She called me one night, voice hesitant. "Do you think we'll ever feel normal again?" she asked. I told her the truth. "No, but you'll feel real." That didn't comfort her. But it stuck. And me. I realized something uncomfortable. Part of me had stayed. The strong one. Because it made me valuable. When the chaos stopped, I had to ask myself, who am I when nobody needs rescuing? The answer wasn't immediate. It took lonely evenings. Missed calls I didn't return right away. Choosing not to jump in when things weren't actually my responsibility, that was the hardest boundary of all. The holidays came and went, smaller, quieter. No big speeches, no forced forgiveness, just honesty in the room. Even when it made everyone uncomfortable. Karen and I never became close. But we became clear. And clarity, I learned, is its own kind of peace. Here's the part nobody likes to hear. Saving your family doesn't mean saving the old version of it. Sometimes it means letting it change, permanently. Sometimes it means accepting distance as progress. And sometimes, it means choosing yourself without waiting for permission. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a loop. Just when you think you've grown past something, life tests you to see if you actually learned the lesson. Or just memorized the speech. For me, that test came on a random Tuesday night. My phone lit up with my mom's name. Not frantic, not crying, careful. "Hey, honey," she said. "I just had a question." That's how it always starts. A question that isn't really a question. An invitation back into a role I'd worked hard to step out of. "What's up?" I asked. "Well," she said slowly, "Karen's having a hard week. She's overwhelmed. I was thinking maybe you could talk to her. She listens to you." There it was. The quiet ask. The familiar pull. I closed my eyes. This wasn't an emergency. This wasn't danger. This was discomfort. And discomfort was no longer my job to manage for everyone else. "Mom," I said gently. "That's something Karen needs to work through with her therapist." Silence. Then a soft sigh. "I just thought it might help." It would have. For them. At my expense. After we hung up, I sat there staring at my reflection in the dark screen of my TV. The old me would have called Karen. Absorbed her stress. Smoothed things over. The new me fought the urge, and didn't act on it. That's growth. Not the absence of temptation. The presence of choice. A week later, Karen texted me herself, Therapy is harder than I expected. No blame, no manipulation, just a statement. I replied that usually means it's working. She didn't respond. And for once, that didn't feel like rejection. It felt like respect. My dad called me that weekend. I wanted to tell you something, he said. I braced myself. I turned down a loan offer, he continued. They tried to rush me. I said no. I smiled so hard my face hurt. I'm proud of you, I said. He paused. I didn't realize how often I let other people decide for me. Neither did I. Because when you grow up watching it, it feels normal. The real shift came when I visited again. Same house, same couch, different energy. Karen wasn't hosting. Mom wasn't overcompensating. Dad wasn't disappearing. No one asked me to fix anything. No one hinted. No one tested. And that's when it hit me. They weren't walking on eggshells around me. They were learning new rules. That night, Mom pulled me aside. I'm trying not to put you in the middle, she said. I nodded. That means more than you know. She hesitated. I didn't realize how much pressure we put on you. I didn't say. It took you long enough, I said. We all did what we knew how to do. That was enough. The urge to overfunction doesn't disappear overnight. But every time you don't step in, something important happens. Other people step up. Karen stopped calling Mom every time she panicked. Dad started handling things directly. Mom learned to sit with discomfort instead of outsourcing it. And I learned that being strong doesn't mean being available to be used. Here's the truth I wish someone had told me sooner. Boundaries don't punish people. They teach them how to treat you. And if someone resents your boundaries, it's usually because they benefited from you having none. No one warns you that boundaries come with a bill. Not a dramatic one. Not something you can point to and say, that's the price. It's quieter than that. It shows up in pauses, in missed moments, in the space where closeness used to be. Even if that closeness was unhealthy, after everything settled, I noticed the distance first with my mom. She still called. Still checked in. But there was a hesitation now, like she was choosing her words more carefully. Part of me appreciated that. Another part of me missed the ease, because even dysfunctional closeness feels comforting when it's familiar. Karen and I never went back to being sisters the way movies promise. No late-night heart-to-hearts. No, we're stronger than ever speeches. We became honest strangers who share history. At first, that hurt more than the fight ever did. Because anger keeps you connected. Clarity creates space. And space can feel like loss, even when it's healthy. There was one moment that almost broke me. A family friend ran into me at a grocery store back home. I heard things were rough with your sister, she said, lowering her voice. But it's good you stepped in. Your parents really needed you. I smiled. Said the polite thing. But inside, something twisted, because that wasn't the whole truth. I didn't step in to save them. I stepped in to stop a lie. And I stepped back to save myself. But nobody applauds the part where you stop being useful. There were nights I wondered if I'd gone too far. If I should have softened it. Smoothed it over, made it easier for everyone else. Then I remembered my dad's voice on that first call. Thin, afraid, ashamed, and I knew. Some things don't deserve softness, they deserve clarity. Months later, Dad told me something that sealed it. I sleep better now, he said casually. I asked why. I know what's mine, he said. And I know no one's deciding for me behind my back. That's when it hit me. The cost of boundaries wasn't closeness. The cost of not having them was safety. My mom still slips sometimes. Karen still struggles. But none of it is hidden anymore. And that, transparency, even when it's uncomfortable, is the real healing, not forgiveness. Not pretending. Truth. Here's the part that might sting if this story feels familiar. If your presence keeps other people from facing consequences, you're not helping, you're buffering. And buffers burn out. Quietly. Until one day, they stop answering the phone. I don't regret stepping back. Even when it meant fewer calls. Even when it meant being misunderstood. Even when it meant letting go of the version of family I wished I had, because the family I have now, even with its limits, is real. And real beats fake harmony every time. Here's the part that still gets me. The locks were never changed. That sticky note on the fridge. Locksmith, Tuesday, 900 a.m. That was supposed to end everything. It didn't. The house is still the same house. Same creaky step on the stairs. Same scratch on the dining table from when I was 12 and tried to help with a science project. Same front door my dad opens every morning like it belongs to him. Because it does. And that's how I know we did the right thing. Not because everything became perfect, but because something important didn't disappear. I think about that first call a lot. My dad whispering, "Don't hang up." Because that's what this story is really about. Not Thanksgiving. Not money. Not even betrayal. It's about what happens when someone finally refuses to hang up on the truth. If I had shown up quietly that holiday. If I'd stayed small to keep things comfortable. If I'd swallowed one more. Don't ruin it. The locks would have changed. And so would everything else. Here's what I want you to hear. Especially if you're the strong one, the reliable one, they'll be fine. 1. You are not selfish for asking questions. You are not dramatic for wanting clarity. You are not disloyal for refusing to disappear. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is interrupt a lie. Even if it makes the room uncomfortable. Even if it costs you closeness. Even if it changes how people see you. Because what you lose in approval, you gain in safety. My family isn't perfect now. Karen still has work to do. My mom still unlearns old habits. My dad still apologizes for things that weren't his fault. And me. I stopped trying to be the easy child. I stopped earning my place by staying silent. I learned that love doesn't require self-erasure. If this story made you think of someone, an aging parent, a sibling who handles everything, or the quiet child who's always expected to be fine, please don't ignore that feeling. Talk early, ask questions, keep copies, and never let don't ruin the holiday. Cost you something you can't replace. And if you stayed until the end of this story, thank you. That tells me you're someone who understands that real strength isn't loud. It's steady. It's honest. And sometimes it sounds like saying no for the first time. If you want more grounded, real, life revenge stories with emotional truth, real consequences, and real healing, stay with me.